Welcome to another edition of Breaking News brought to you by Source Selection Soundbites. Today we will discuss the case of Afghan American Army Services Corp. Versus the United States, or AAA, was decided at the Court of Federal Claims, or the COFC. This case is a post-award bid protest arising out of a solicitation for trucking services to provide transportation of goods for the multinational forces in Afghanistan and surrounding countries which constitute the Afghanistan Theater of Operations. The price evaluation required a determination of fair and reasonable price, as well as a price realism analysis, but the agency did not commit itself to any particular price realism methodology. The agency finished its evaluation and made several IDIQ contract awards. Upon learning of the agency's decision, AAA filed a protest against the agency's decision. The protester challenged the agency's price realism determination because it believed the IGCE used to evaluate price realism was flawed because it did not contain the security component, which added significant costs to the requirement. The government argued that the RFP used competition to establish that the offers were reasonable, and the IGCE confirmed that the offerers were within a range somewhat above what the agency had already been paying for these services. The government's representation that the offers were somewhat above the IGCE is only generally true because two of the awardees' proposed prices, including the security requirements, were actually lower than the IGCE, which did not include them. The protester responded to this information by arguing that some of the proposed prices should have appeared so low to the agency as to require it to do further analysis to see if the low prices offered occasioned performance risk. In response, the agency referred the court to the contracting officer's declaration in prior GAO litigation, which stated there were multiple awardees, which meant there was little risk to the government from an award to an offerer with a low price. That is, if an awardee was unable to perform at the offered price, the government could turn to an alternate awardee for the same services. Thus, no further analysis was required. En route to finding against the agency, the court noted the nature and extent of a price realism analysis is ultimately within the sound exercise of the agency's discretion, unless the agency commits itself to a particular methodology in a solicitation. The agency's discretion is even more pronounced when the solicitation is silent regarding the methodology to be used in conducting a price realism analysis, as is the case here. However, the court determined the agency failed to evaluate whether the offerers could perform at their proposed prices, and that it justifies that decision by making an apples to oranges comparison of the proposed prices to an IGCE that excluded an entire category of work the offerers proposed to perform. In addition, the court noted the agency awarded contracts to two offerers whose total proposed price was even lower than the IGCE that the government knew was significantly and materially understated. The court found that the agency did not meaningfully conduct the price realism analysis it committed itself to in the solicitation, and it could not simply choose to ignore that requirement because the procedures called for in the RFP are binding regardless of the agency's view of the appropriateness of the standard. In conclusion, the court found the agency erred in failing to conduct a sufficient price realism analysis because the analysis it undertook was based upon irrational assumptions or critical miscalculations. Given these facts, the protest was sustained. Now let's address a few of the lessons learned from this protest. They include: 1. Agencies are not bound to any particular realism methodology unless the agency commits to a methodology in the solicitation. 2. The agency's discretion is even more pronounced when the solicitation is silent regarding the methodology to be used in conducting a price realism analysis, but the methodology used must be reasonable. And 3. The agency cannot simply ignore the solicitation requirement because it believes the risk has been mitigated by other factors. In this episode of Source Selection Soundbites, we discuss the AAA case and the price realism principles associated with it. This concludes today's Source Selection Soundbite. If this video was helpful, hit the like and subscribe button to ensure you don't miss any new material. If you want more details on the subject, they are available on the Source Selection Answer app. It contains lectures, quizzes, court cases, sample documents, and more material that allows practitioners to quickly obtain actionable knowledge. Thanks for watching. See you next time.